Guys, it's Mrs. Sharpley, and this week we're talking about figurative language. And figurative language is when there is hidden meaning behind what is being said. So, if we are reading something, there could be figurative language used where it doesn't mean exactly what the text says. We actually have to investigate it a little bit and determine the hidden meaning. So, first, we're going to talk about similes. Some of these we've probably had some exposure to in the past or some experience with. So some of this may be a little bit of review. But similes are when we compare two things that really don't have anything to do with each other using the word like or as. So looking at my notebook, I went ahead and pasted my Mean by Taylor Swift piece of my notebook in. I did not paste my bottom piece though because this is actually going to go in like a pocket. So I'm actually going to glue the sides and the bottom, but not put any glue on the middle part. And then that way when we glue it in, it will be a pocket for us to use later. And press that well on the sides and the bottom, and then we can kind of move on. All right, so the piece that we just glued in says a simile compares, it's a comparison of two unlike things using the words like or as. For example, as the girl was humiliated, her cheeks turned as red as an apple. Now, in reality, cheeks and apples have nothing in common, but the author is comparing the redness of someone's cheek to an apple. All right, a non-example is that the girl is as tall as her brothers. Well, brothers and sisters are actually related, literally. So that would not be an example of a simile. So you actually have to think, how are they being compared? Are they using like or as? And do those two things really have anything in common? All right, now tips. The two things being compared must be completely different, which is unlike. And then not every sentence that contains like or as is a simile. So just because you see the word like does not mean there's a simile there. You actually have to kind of investigate it a little bit and see if two things that are different are being compared. Now if we look back to our top section up here for our Mean by Taylor Swift, there are some similes that are hidden in here. So we're going to read it first, and then we'll kind of pick apart the pieces that have similes in there. Mean by Taylor Swift. Of course, this isn't the entire song, this is just a section. You, with your words like knives and swords and weapons that you use against me, you have knocked me off my feet again, got me feeling like I'm nothing. You, with your voice like nails on a chalkboard, calling me out when I'm wounded. You, picking on the weaker man. So if we want to go back again to our first part of our piece of the song, it says, you with your words like knives and swords and weapons. Now, knives and swords and weapons, those are being compared to words. But in reality, words don't have anything to do with knives and swords and weapons. They're being compared. So words like knives and swords and weapons. So that's meaning that the words hit her on the inside as much as a weapon hurts somebody on the outside. So that's what we're going to write on the side here. Oops, got a little blurry. I'm not quite sure why. Let's try this. All right. So it's saying that words hurt her on the inside like weapons can on the outside. Meaning that the words really, really hurt, okay? Now, as we continue, it says, "You have knocked me off my feet again, got me feeling like I'm nothing. You, with your voice like nails on a chalkboard." Now, that voice is being compared to a chalkboard, those nails on the chalkboard. And really, voice and nails on a chalkboard don't have anything in common, but they are being compared to make that point. There's some hidden meaning there. So, voice like nails on a chalkboard. Now, it's saying that just listening to that voice is very unpleasant and maybe even makes her flinch, like nails on a chalkboard would do. So, hearing the voice. Maybe is unwanted. Like the bothering sound of nails on a chalkboard. All right, now we have a couple of cards here that we have cut into pieces. And they have similes on them, so we're going to kind of talk about those similes a little bit. Our first one that we can talk about says playing tag. Dean felt like a dog chasing his tail. So obviously playing tag doesn't really have anything to do with a dog chasing his tail. However, when a dog is chasing his tail, does he ever really catch it? Not really, so it just kind of looks silly. So Dean must be chasing people and chasing people and chasing people and not ever catching anyone. So that can get a little bit frustrating. So that is definitely a simile because you're comparing that playing tag like chasing a dog on his tail. So we're actually going to put that in our little pocket that we made earlier today. Well, earlier in this video. The next one we'll read has a number 26 on it. The toddlers sat in their booster seats like birds on a high line. So if you can kind of think of a high line as maybe like a power cord or telephone cord that's hanging up in the sky, and imagine all those little birds that are sitting up in, nice in a little row. So we must have toddlers who are sitting in their little booster seats, just kind of sitting there by each other, maybe in a little bit of a row. And although toddlers, which are little children, have nothing in common with birds, they just kind of look like that. So you are kind of comparing them. So that is another simile that we will tuck in there. Our next one says that the water reflected colors like a rainbow. Now, the water and the rainbow really, there's not a lot in common there. So you're actually saying that the colors that they reflect like a rainbow. It's not a real rainbow. So that is a simile. So we will tuck that in our little pocket as well. And then our last one says, finally, my temper exploded like a bomb. Now, it's not a good thing to have a temper. We need to keep it in control, of course. However, this person must have really tried to keep it together, and then all of a sudden, they became so upset that they exploded like a bomb. And of course, somebody's temper doesn't really have a lot to do with a bomb. It's not like a bomb is going to be creating a lot of damage. But you're comparing them to make a point. You can kind of even see someone getting really, really upset all of a sudden. So definitely a simile. So we are going to tuck that into our pocket. And then now when you're working with similes for the rest of the week, you'll hopefully be able to identify and use them very well. Have a good one, guys.